Hello, welcome to Ivan Minis. Today I'm talking about terrain. Terrain's a really important part of any miniatures game, I think. A nice table full of interesting terrain helps with the immersion and looks cool, and tactically has a lot of implications. You know, if you've not got enough terrain, it can favour certain playstyles. And I was asked to paint up these couple of bits by the terrain master down at my club, Black Hole Wargamers, because he was running out of time to do it himself. We got them from TT Combat. They have a range of miniatures games that they produce stuff for. They make some models for these various properties. They've got paints. They've got these MDF scenery kits, which we're looking at today. I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. I'm just telling you where we got the kits from because I like them and they're cheap. They've got a range of different kind of settings that they make the terrain for, and these are from the streets of Venice, which is really for Carnival. So we've got the Dimora Justina here, which is a nice tall building. We figured that these were going to fit into multiple settings. You could imagine playing 40k in the Dimora Helena here as well. You could imagine a 40k setting in some kind of backwater planet, you know, with these kind of buildings, or you could use them in something more modern or something, you know, kind of historical. Just as a quick aside on some other stuff from TT Combat, because I do really like what they do. There are various resin miniatures they make, some stuff for kind of 40k type armies and some stuff for kind of Warhammer Age of Sigmar type stuff. I've actually got a couple of their giants, and I mean, if you want some giants, this box is a fantastic deal. I've got to say, I've got a couple of the big ones, not this one, I haven't got those ones, but I've got one of these guys to put together and paint, and it's the same size as a Mega Gargan, and this one as well. I need to put them together and paint them because they are fantastic models for Sons of Behemat. So just plug that a little bit. Anyway, back to the terrain. Because the terrain is kind of based on Venice, I looked at pictures of Venice and Verona. Had a good look at some kind of ideas to give me some inspiration for how to paint these buildings. And what I found interesting was that there's a lot of colours. So bright colours in those cities, and I thought I'll try and incorporate that to a degree, but without going too mad, because I wanted to get these painted really quickly. So this is a very dirty, quick paint scheme that you could do and apply to these sort of models. To be honest and upfront, I didn't really enjoy painting them, but I think the end result is good. So I'm happy with the end result, but the process was a bit frustrating. So I started off by just getting a small palette of colours together that I could mix and match. I figured a bit of brown and green and a bit of red, you know, would kind of work well. I'm using these D&D colours by Army Painter. I got them a while ago, mostly because the set included this awesome owlbear, and I wanted to get him to go along with the other owlbear that I've got. And that was the only way to get him, was in the paint set. But the paints are quite good. You know, I don't use them very often, so that's why I thought I'd use them in this project, because I had them knocking about. But they're quite good. I think the newer Army Painter Fanatic range is supposed to be much better, but I've not tried that myself yet. But they're absolutely fine paints, and you know, dropper bottles are easy to use. So I got the models like this from our terrain master. He'd already spray painted them, undercoated with this kind of light creamy colour, and I thought I didn't want to have to paint the whole thing, so I thought the main walls are going to remain this kind of creamy colour with a wash on top, and then I was going to fill in some colours on the other bits and pieces. That was my plan. Anything to make it a little bit quicker and a bit easier. So I started off painting the sort of nice bits of wooden palisadey bits around the balconies and that, and they were a pain. I used an dirty old brush, just something cheap, but trying to get into all those little gaps was quite irritating. I mean, yeah, they look quite nice, but it was just difficult and much more time consuming than I was expecting it to be. I'm not sure if there's a better way to do that. Maybe with these kits, maybe spray painting these pieces separately before gluing them together. That might improve things, because you know, just use a brown spray and it's done. And I think that might be something to suggest if we've got some more of these kits. And I think he's threatened that we've got a couple more kits he might want me to paint up, which you know, maybe he can just watch this and copy what I did. That'd be fun. Anyway, gave them a good paint, and then I just kind of decided to fill in other bits and pieces as I saw fit, and I thought a little bit of bright colour here and there would match the pictures I'd already seen of the cities in Italy, which we were kind of mimicking, and it was just keeping it quite simple, really. Keeping to the kind of limited palette that I'd already chosen gives you a bit of consistency between the buildings, even though I'm painting some elements differently. Like the corner bricks on the two buildings are painted with two different colours, but those colours are used on other elements of the other building, so you've got that kind of consistency between them, even though they look slightly different. And that's the kind of thing I do with regiments of troops, orcs in particular. You know, keep a palette of colours so they all look vaguely consistent, but you're painting different parts of them in different colours to get a little bit of a motley ragtag appearance. And I think that worked quite well here on the buildings, the same sort of principle, you know. Trying to be as neat as possible, but not being too worried about it, because I'm going to cover it with a wash, and it is a piece of scenery, so I'm not too worried about it being really, really neat. I'm just trying to keep within the lines as much as possible. It's a little bit challenging with a big piece like this to kind of get all the way around it with your brush, so trying to turn it around and getting all the nooks and crannies can be a little bit difficult. You just have to approach it slightly differently to how you approach painting a regular kind of miniature that you might be used to. As I said, it was a bit challenging, I think, because there's a lot of flat panels here. If you want this to look really, really nice, I think you'd have to spend a lot more time on it. I didn't want to spend too much time. There is a lot of scope for adding your own flavour to it, adding some texture, perhaps doing a bit of sponging on some bits would have been quite good. But like I say, I didn't want to spend ages painting all the rendered walls. I decided to leave them being this kind of creamy colour. And it was just trying to get the whole thing done quickly. I think I prefer painting the bigger plastic terrain kits, you know, like that Games Workshop typically do. I've had much more fun. They've got more texture on them, you know, they feel a bit easier to paint, I think, and a bit more fun. These, you know, although they look good in the end, I don't know why, I just found it a bit of a chore more than enjoyable. But maybe I was having an off day, I don't know. Having said that, these are really well priced, much cheaper than the other sort of plastic kits you can get. And if you want to get a nice table full of scenery, the white boxes that they do, the bundles, really cheap, really good for line of sight blocking terrain, nice and functional because you've got these balconies you can stand on. They've got various sort of stairs and that kind of stuff as well. They are really good gaming pieces, I think. And perhaps if I had built them myself, like I say, perhaps if I'd have built them in sections and sprayed each bit, I might find it a bit easier to do. So that'd be something to bear in mind in the future. But I've got to give them as they are, and you know, it's fine. It really didn't take me very long to get them done, and I think they look good in the end. With all the colours blocked in, I went on to put a wash on. I really like using the Army Painter quick shades. I was thinking about using the one in the tin, which is the dip. That's kind of slightly more glossy. It definitely needs a matte varnish to knock it back, and works really well. Gives you a huge amount of protection. I've used that on other pieces of terrain before, and it's really good. I like it, but it takes ages to dry. So I decided to go with the water-based version from the dropper bottles here. Used up quite a lot of it, but I heavily watered it down. So I just mixed it up in this ramekin, and then used an big old brush to just get it all over. I did think it needed a little bit of attention while it was drying. So as it starts to pool, as it starts to run, kind of keep brushing it a little bit to get it back where you want it, especially on the flat panels. It works, I think it works really well to give a kind of slightly different texture and a griminess to the flat panels. It definitely pools on like the window frames and the ledges and all that kind of stuff, and gives you a bit of shadow there. But it looks good on the flat bits as well. And then, yeah, definitely for the shutters and all that kind of stuff. There's just about enough relief in the MDF where it's been laser cut. There's just about enough relief to give you a bit of definition there from the wash. But yeah, slapped it all over, but certainly keep an eye on it as it's drying, because it will start to run down the sides of the building, and sometimes you'll get drips and things that you don't want necessarily. So just keep running the brush over it. Maybe a little bit of extra water as well on the brush, just to keep it moving a little bit, and then it will dry nicely. And I think the end result's really good. I am really pleased with that, actually. The wash made a big difference, and really just made it look less flat, which is what it's supposed to do. I had thought I was going to do a bit of dry brushing on these, but after the wash was done, I decided that was enough. I was happy enough with it as it was. And then this is how it ends up. And this is where the terrain really comes into its own, because you've got some models in front of it. And this is, when you're playing a game, even if you've got a bit of terrain which is a little bit rough and ready, you've got some nice models in front of it. It's sitting on a decent mat. This is a mat from Deep Cut Studios. I've got a lot of Deep Cut Studio mats of various types, which are really nice. But yeah, you stick it on there and you've got some models. You're focused on the models, and the scenery becomes the background. So you're not focused on that model necessarily. So it doesn't have to be perfectly painted. It's just got to look kind of decent, I think, and these have done the job really well. And you can see, you can stand them up on the roof, you can put them in various places. You've got the nicely sized kind of parapets to give you a bit of protection if you need that. You can even fit a pterodactyl from the Duplo set on there if you want to. My daughter was helping with taking these photos, and it was nice and sunny, so we just took them outside. But yeah, great pieces for playing with. I'm glad that I've got them done. As I say, I found them a bit, not difficult to do, but just kind of challenging for me because it wasn't that enjoyable. Perhaps I just wanted to be painting something else. I've got loads of other things I wanted to be painting. But anyway, they're done. I think we've got a couple more to get done. And it will give us a really nice sort of set. We've got a few different themed sets of terrain down at the club for various games, and we try and keep them together in their little sets. But you always need more terrain, I think, to avoid getting shot off the table by evil shooty armies. Anyway, I hope that's been enjoyable. Just a quick go on those. I definitely recommend getting some of these sort of ones. They've got various other ranges which are worth looking at. And like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. What's your favourite terrain to use in a game? Got any stories about how it's benefited you or not? I've certainly had quite a few games which have been determined by the terrain, I think, more than perhaps the gameplay, which is sometimes a bit annoying, but is what it is. So yeah, let us know, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye.